I've noticed something over the last year. There's a moment that tends to arrive quietly for many mid to late career professionals. And it's not dramatic, it doesn't come as like a single breaking point. It's just this slow, persistent realization that like something isn't right. And on paper, things might look fine, even successful. But internally, there's this heaviness, right? This sense of like time is passing, right? And there's this growing discomfort that the work you're doing isn't the work that you're meant to be doing. And so by the time people find their way into my coaching practice, they're often carrying more than just sort of the typical career questions. It's heavier than that. It's like they're carrying years of effort and decisions and expectations and emotions that it's much harder to name, because it's like on paper I did everything right, right? Or I zigzagged. That was my story. I zigzagged in an effort to find the thing. So I was intentional about making moves to get me closer to the thing. And so what I've noticed over time is that there's actually these three sort of archetypes that show up again and again. So different stories, on the surface, but deeply human and surprisingly universal underneath. So I'm going to go through them. Number one, it's the zigzagger. Again, that was my story. Someone who has spent years searching, right? So some intentional moves, moved roles, moved industries, even entire careers, right? And each time with hope that I would find the right thing, right? Pivots were intentional, they were thoughtful, often brave, right? Maybe this is it, right? Maybe this is the thing that I'm meant to do. And so for a while, like each new path brought a spark, right? It brought some joy, something new to kind of sink my teeth into, a sense of possibility, right? But eventually the same question returned or emerged, which was, is this really it? Am I living up to my potential? Am I doing what I'm truly capable of? And the answer was often no. And so then it sparked or spurred on another new pivot. And so further along, right, in my career, those questions felt even heavier because the stakes felt higher, right? I could see there was that comparison shame. I could see my counterparts, my friends, people I went to university with, you know, collecting titles and collecting promotions. And so there was this persistent shame that sort of sounded like, well, why haven't I figured it out yet? Or, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I just commit to something and stick to it, right? Other people have found their path. Like, why haven't I? Right. And so it often, emerged like a couple of years in, or a year and a half, 2 years into the new gig, right? The novelty had worn off. I'd kind of like mastered the thing. But there wasn't that alignment for me anymore, right? That sense of alignment, like this thing really fit and it was the thing that was going to allow me to live up to my potential, wasn't there. So many attempts, and if you've been following my work, then you know that the pandemic was the thing for me that allowed me the space to kind of figure out what my thing was. So that's the zigzagger. Then there's the wrong ladder climber. And the wrong ladder climber did everything right. They chose the sensible path, or they chose the stable career path, right? The one that promised growth and security and respect. And they worked hard and they sacrificed and they said yes when it mattered, and it worked, right? They climbed. They made it to the top of the mountain, promotion by promotion, milestone by milestone, until one day when they reached a level that once inspired them and realized something deeply unsettling, that it either wasn't enough or it didn't feel the way that they thought it would, right? It felt hollow. I hear that a lot, right? I climbed the mountain, I got to the top of the mountain, and it felt hollow, right? So the view from the top wasn't as satisfying as they thought it was going to be, right? It kind of fell flat, maybe even felt empty. And so that realization often comes with this complicated mix of like frustration and resentment, right? Resentment that I did everything right. I did what I was supposed to do. Why doesn't this feel good, right? Why am I still not fulfilled? Well, my friend, you're on the wrong ladder, right? You climbed the ladder that was someone else's dream or someone else's idea of success. Maybe it was well-intentioned, parental influence or societal influence or family pressure. Um, but for whatever reason, you got on the wrong ladder. And at a certain point, either they're burned out, not from the wrong work or not from working too hard, but from the wrong work, right? Being misaligned with the work that they're doing. And then the third archetype that I've been seeing quite a lot is the sidelined high performer, right? So someone that knows they're capable of more, right? Not in an arrogant way, just like in a very like clear, I know what I'm capable of and it's more than this, right? And they've delivered, maybe they've gone above and beyond. They've seen others less capable and less committed move ahead, which is often deeply uncomfortable, right? When you have that realization that someone you mentored or someone that reported to you is now higher than you, right? And, moving ahead felt impossible, right? Maybe they got stuck. Maybe it was because they got overlooked, passed over, dismissed, underutilized, and deeply uncomfortable when the realization is that, I've been proving myself, but the powers that be, it's really convenient for them that I stay stuck, right? That I stay at this level of mid manager or, director level because I'm still rolling up my sleeves and I'm still getting in the mix and getting dirty and doing the work. That's really convenient for everybody else. It's not so convenient for me because now I've been sidelined or I've been passed over or I've been underutilized for years. And as a high achiever, that's deeply painful, right? When you see that you've been missing out, right, on opportunities, on growth, on evolution, like you should be higher. So there's a real sense of resentment and anger and frustration that comes with that too. And it kind of feels like you're trapped in a bit of a loop, right? Like you prove yourself, it goes unnoticed, you try harder, you're still unseen, right? You're undervalued, you're underappreciated. And so, you start to question yourself. Your confidence usually takes a hit. Just because, you get passed over, you get overlooked, you get unnoticed enough, and, it takes a hit to your confidence. So the common theme, like on the surface, these three archetypes look very different, right? Their stories look very different. One has moved too much, one has stayed too long, and one hasn't been allowed to move at all. But underneath, they share something really powerful. And that's this deep awareness that time matters and they're made for more. And they want to get that figured out, right? They want to be aligned with who they really are. And these aren't early career, questions, really. These are the later stage questions. These are these emotionally charged questions where you're tired for living for the weekend. You're tired of feeling that Sunday dread creep in, waking up on a Monday with a sense of heaviness, right? Not because the work is hard, but because it feels meaningless to you. It feels like you're wasting time. So these people look different maybe on paper, but the underlying feeling and the underlying message is that they want work that feels aligned with who they are. They want a sense that their effort actually matters, and they have this ability and that they want something where they can make an impact and make a difference and really leave their mark. And they can see that time is, running out. And so they want to stop that feeling of wasting time. So if you see yourself in any of those archetypes, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not behind, you're not broken, it's not too late. But if you see yourself in any of those archetypes, what you're feeling is often the beginning of something really important. And that's a big transition or a big transformation, right? It often starts as a whisper and then it goes louder and louder until it becomes harder to ignore. So it's really pointing to, if you're feeling this right now, it's pointing to that gap between the life that you've built and the life that you actually want, right? The work that you've been doing and the work that you know is actually meant for you. So if this resonates at all, drop me a line, reach out. There's lots of ways that we can chat. And I would love to help, or just keep following the content and hopefully one day it'll inspire you enough to take action.